Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion. The Gujarat Titans have beaten the Rajasthan Royals by 37 runs. A very good win for them. And in my preview I'd said that even though SRH won their last two games in this ground when chasing, and they did so quite easily after having slow starts in the power play, I still thought and I still do think that if you get that 160 odd score in this ground in the first innings, it can be defended with good bowling. And the Titans got more than enough runs in 192, and they would have been confident with their bowling attack that they could defend this score. And I think both sides would have wanted to bat first this game. I mean, I know the Royals chose to bowl first, but the reason why I think that was is because there was a forced change in Jamie Neesham playing instead of Trent Bolt. They may have wanted to play Jamie Neesham, I think, because they would have added to that in another case, because they would have wanted that extra assurance at number 6 and also the extra assurance in terms of the sixth bowler. But they wouldn't have wanted to play him instead of Trent Bolt. And I've said before that you can still play Van der Dussen, and if you play Jaiswal instead of Padikkal, you've got an explosive top 5, but it doesn't exactly solve what you've got after that. So I think that with a side that doesn't exactly have too much batting depth, really after Ashwin at number 7, they have a long tail, and so they would have wanted to get that reliability at number 6. So if you've got Neesham at number 6 and you're playing both Jaiswal and Padikkal on the same side, you've still got a good top 6 there. But with Trent Bolt not playing in this in the 11 today, I've spoken about the Rajasthan Royals and the Knight Riders, their desired bowling template, which is the fact that they will go for runs to the death, so they just want to destroy the opposition before the end of the 15 overs. And in that case, you have one of two things happening. They're either chasing 130 odd in their second innings because they've destroyed the opposition so much in their first 15 in the first innings that if they concede their runs at the death, they're still only chasing that score. And for the Rajasthan Royals against SRH, they went so well in the power play in the second innings that whatever runs they conceded in the last few overs didn't exactly matter to the outcome. And so with Trent Bolt not being available, it takes away really one trident from that. I think with both KKR and Rajasthan Royals, in order to execute that, you want your main bowlers to be fit for the games. And with Trent Bolt not being there, it would have really affected their plans. And that's why they would have thought with Jimmy Neesham in the side as an extra batsman, I think that they would have backed themselves to chase down a total in this game. And I think that considering they bowled first in this game, I think they would have thought, right, we're bowling to a fragile batting lineup, and we've still got Ashwin, Chahal, and Prasidh Krishna. If we somehow limit them to 160 or 170, we've got the extra batsmen to chase the score down. But because they lost wickets at crucial times in their chase, they fell quite a bit short by 37 runs in the end. And I think that it played into the Gujarat Titans' hands because they, even with the extra batsmen the Rajasthan Royals had, they had been confident that they could have defended a score, especially the kind of score that they got. So around the starting 11s of both teams, for the Gujarat Titans, two changes, Yash Dayal in for Darshan Nalkande. And I'm not surprised Vijay Shankar was brought back into the side. I think if you look at the similarity of strike rates between him and Sai Sudarshan, yes, the latter has only played 2 games and played well, I thought, but especially in the first game, he didn't exactly go at those blistering strike rates, 35 of 30 when chasing 190. And so I think that with those two having more similar strike rates, I think that that's what prevented Sudarshan from having more of being in front of Shankar to be included at number 3 on the batting front. And with that kind of a level playing field, what you've got is Shankar offers overs with the ball. And if you look at the 5th bowler for the Gujarat Titans, after Hardik Pandya, Lockie Ferguson, Mohammad Shami, Rashid Khan, so 16 overs there, you haven't got a 4-over bank for the 5th bowler. You have to just juggle around a bit. And if Shankar has to bowl 2 overs, I think that it does provide them a bit of an insurance policy for that 5th bowler. And for the Rajasthan Royals, I've said all this time in this video that with Trent Bolt not being available for this game, I think that influenced their decision at the toss to choose to bowl first in the end, rather than bat. And so the Gujarat Titans openers walked out to bat in Matthew Wade and Shubman Gill. And straight away, the impact of not having Trent Bolt to bowl up front was shown here, because Matthew Wade, who hadn't exactly had the greatest of times in this tournament, would have certainly been happy that he didn't have to face Trent Bolt in the first over. And 12 runs, 3 boundaries in the first over, and you could say that it set a great tone for the Gujarat Titans, not necessarily for the Rajasthan Royals. But in the next over, luckily for them, Wade was run out. And it's a case where, yes, there was no run there, and I think Shubman Gill set off almost straight away. But for Matthew Wade, he also could have chosen not to run, and Shubman Gill could have got run out. I don't know why that he kind of... there wasn't really too much of a case where he stood his ground. He just went along with it, and he was dismissed because of a direct hit from Van der Dusen. So unlucky for... Well, you can say unlucky, but also if he hadn't chosen to run, he wouldn't have been out. So I let off for the Rajasthan Royals, and in the very next over, a lucky dismissal for Kuldeep Sen when Vijay Shankar was caught behind off his bowling. So you've got 2 wickets to fall inside the first 3 overs. And in this case, in the third bigger partnership, you've got Shubman Gill and Hardik Pandya to bat. Now, these two have proven to be the scaffolding in the batting lineup this season so far. I think that had they really focused their resources into getting these two out, it would have been a risk, but had they got Hardik Pandya out as well fairly soon, and they got Shubman Gill out in the 7th over, had they got Hardik Pandya out fairly soon, then they would have had a real advantage in this game. But when these two were batting and with the form that they've been showing, I think that it was such an important... it was so important that preferably both these two players fired for the Titans, but especially one of them, well, especially one out of the two. The partnership lasted for 38 runs, and I don't know why they... Look, I understand to say that maybe with the likes of Trent Bolt not being available, they want to sneak in over Riyan Parag because you're not sure if Nisham would bowl 4 overs. And you could say it worked for them, 1 for 12 in his 1 over. Shubman Gill trying to maximise the output of the Parag over. And I don't think it was necessary because they got 11 runs of the first 3 balls. And the important fact was that they were still batting together at that point, Gill and Pandya. And then Shubman Gill being dismissed, caught at long on by Shimon Hetmeyer. It was a huge let-off for the Rajasthan Royals. And you've got a case where now it's pretty much on Hardik Pandya at that point, you'd think, on paper, to get them to a decent score that they'll be confident of defending. And I was really impressed with Abhinav Manhora this innings because, look, before this innings, I don't think they would have had too much faith in, or even he did well in the previous game, albeit that innings was a bit lucky. But especially before this game, I don't think they would have had too much faith in anyone else if the going was tough and to really play that recovery partnership alongside Hardik Pandya. I think if Shubman Gill and Hardik Pandya, as I've said, they really form the batting scaffolding for this lineup. And if those two are dismissed without scoring too much, which hasn't happened so far in the tournament, but if those two are dismissed, let's say for let's say 10 or so each, then this lineup is in trouble. And what Abhinav Manhora's innings did today was that it gave those two a bit more faith. It would give those two more faith to say, we've got someone who's aggressive by trade, but he scored 19 runs of his first 18 balls and then scored 24 runs off 9 balls before he got out. And especially 3 of the shots that he hit off Chahal were outstanding towards the end. One shot straight down the ground, then the 6 over cover, and then a few overs later, dragging a ball that was slightly wider, well, no, a fair bit wider off stump over mid-wicket for 6, hitting the ball off the middle of the bat. I still thought that it was quite a risky shot considering that there was a fielder there on the boundary rope, but he got such a good connection that the ball went for 6 and cleared that fielder by some distance. So I think that innings really helped Hardik Pandya as well. He had a lot. He's going to have more of an insurance policy in this tournament with the likes of Manohar really emerging to play more of a versatile role, despite the fact that his natural game is to take on the bowling. And if you're looking at the until the 13th over, the one bowler who they really went after to keep that partnership run rate afloat was actually Kuldeep Sen, because overall he went for 51 runs in his 4 overs. And if you look at everyone else, you'd think, well, especially 3 bowlers, and Prasidh Krishna none for 35, Chehel 1 for 32 and Ashwin none for 33. You wouldn't exactly say when we've conceded 194, you wouldn't exactly say that they've gone just ham off these three bowlers. But I think because they gave respect to them in the start and they got those quick runs of Kuldeep Sen, especially Hardik Pandya, I think what that did was they then took the attack to these three bowlers, and that's why their figures, even though they don't look too bad considering the score is 192, I think that they still look worse than what they could have been. And regarding Hardik Pandya, I think the thing he did in this innings, as opposed to the previous ones, is that even though he got a really good start in all three of in all four of the innings before, he did slow down a bit, and And so the thing is, what he did in this innings was that after getting that quick start, he really continued on 87 of 52 all in all. Such an outstanding innings. And before Avina Manohar has really shown this faith, and even with that, I think you've got a case where Pandya has had to show such an incredible level of consistency, which he's never had to show before. His lowest score has been 27 in this tournament so far. He's bowled 4 overs in every game but this one, and he's captained the side. So there's so much pressure on him to perform, and he's been really delivering for his franchise. And so with Manohar's innings, I really think that it will give him more of an insurance policy, but also is a case where he didn't slow down today, and I think that that's why he really batted through the innings after walking in fairly early on, and it was a stunning knock from him, second on the orange cap, and he's really having an outstanding tournament. And at this rate, if he bowls, then he walks into the side for sure, the national side for sure. And apparently it was just cramps. That's the reason why his second innings was fairly... sometimes he was on the field, but for the most part he was off the field. I don't know why he bowled that third over, because at that point you'd still think that even if he hadn't bowled, the game was in favour of the Titans. And so he had to walk off midway through his third over, I think. His third over, I think. But I guess, I don't know why he chose to bowl his third over, but luckily it's only cramps because his team need him with bat and ball. And so another player who contributed really well today was David Miller, 31 of 14. If a seamer bowls in the slot, usually the mid-wicket area for him when he's batting will get quite a lot of balls hit to that area. And he was outstanding today, 31 of 14. And an advantage that this side have got is that, I've said this before, if a platform is set, they've got the power to really take advantage of that. Whether Pandya bats through, or you have Manohar, Miller, Tewatia and Rashid Khan. So that's a really a powerful set of players. And with the versatility that Manohar showed today, I think that you've got the case where he can play that recovery knock and also really hit out at the end. So they'll feel really happy with how this innings went. And I think that, again, as I've said this quite a few times in this innings, Gill and Pandya would be able to add a third member to, or be able to start to add a third member to their batting scaffolding. To say, if he delivers more consistently, then they've got a bit more pressure alleviated from their side. And for the Rajasthan Royals bowling attack, I've said this even before in this video, where they haven't exactly, when you've scored 192 runs, 3 of the bowlers haven't exactly gone at exorbitant run rates, but I think Nisham and Parag all in all went for 1 for 41 in their 4, and along with Kuldeep Sen with 1 for 51 in his 4. I think especially Kuldeep Sen held this run rate afloat through the recovery, the early stages of that 4th wicket partnership. And because of that, you could say they really cashed in on him when he was bowling. So 192 for 4 and a really good effort from the Gujarat Titans. And they think that they had more than enough runs to defend from this point. And the Rajasthan Royals walked out to bat, and Josh Butler was simply outstanding. I mean, just in the previous innings, Pandya had taken the orange cap from him, and it didn't take long for him to take back the orange cap. It's a statement innings, 54 of 24. And after there being an appeal for caught behind off the first ball of the innings, he was absolutely imperious, with playing classical shots and also playing the paddles over fine leg for 6. And this was an imperious innings. I mean, this took quite a lot to stop him, and it needed a Jaffa over delivery from Ferguson to get rid of him in the end. But I think that Yash Dayal bowled during this time, and it was a bit of a tough entrance for him. I think that on debut, bowling to Josh Butler when he's striking the ball so well is never easy. And I think that for some deliveries, you could say that Josh Butler just played those deliveries really well. For example, I think a cover drive for 4, and also when he pulled one of the deliveries over 6, for 6 over mid wicket. I think that in those cases the lines weren't exactly wrong at all, but it was just the quality of the batsman. But he got 3 wickets today, and the 1 wicket I think he'd be really happy with was the wicket of David Padikkar. A delivery that rose from a good length, and an excellent catch at slip from Shubman Gill. So I think he would have been really happy with that wicket. And interestingly, Ravichandran Ashwin walked out at number 3. Now, the reason why I think this is because Josh Butler doesn't have a great record against Rashid Khan, and that's why they would have wanted to. You think that they would have wanted to introduce Rashid Khan into the attack to get Josh Butler out. And I think that with Ravichandran Ashwin at number 3, they would have wanted to make sure that if Butler didn't get out to Rashid Khan and 2 overs of his quota had been taken out, it would have worked well when you're considering the other players in the lineup: Sanju Samson, Fam Didison, Shimron Hetmyer, Riyan Parag, Jimmy Neesham. If they don't have to face as much of Rashid Khan, and you've got R. Ashwin, who's probably, with the way that he hit a straight 6 down the ground off Rashid Khan, I think that they would have wanted that partnership to last a bit longer, and at least 2 overs of Rashid Khan's overs to be bowled before, let's say, even if Butler was dismissed by him, the other players would only have to face 2 overs of him for the rest of the innings. And R. Ashwin was dismissed for the second wicket of the innings. An absolutely brilliant catch from David Miller. R. Ashwin had hit the ball off at the middle of the bat, and honestly, the reaction time on that catch, it was a stunning catch from Miller. We've seen his brilliance in the outfield, but I think that in this case we saw it in the infield, and a great catch from him. And soon after that, just after Josh Butler had got to his 50 off a brilliant shot over fine leg for 6 that we've seen him play so many times, in this case of Lockie Ferguson, the next ball was a slow ball Yorker, and bowled at I think 126 kph, and Lockie Ferguson just running his fingers over the ball, and the ball taking the off stump in the end. A stunning delivery, and this is the first time I've actually seen Lockie Ferguson bowl slow and get rewards. All the other times he's bowled slow, you'd think that he probably shouldn't have. For example, I think in IPL 2020 he gave 50 runs against CSK in a dead rubber game for CSK for them to get over the line. In some cases in the tournament, especially in the previous game when he went for 46 runs, you'd think that bowling slow for him didn't exactly work, I thought before. But in this case, it's the first time I actually saw a case where him bowling a slow ball really worked in favour, it really worked well for him. A stunning delivery, and Butler was dismissed with 54. And after this point, the Brewers found it really hard to stay in the game, I thought. Yes, they had the batting to do it, but it was still going to be difficult for them. And the 4th wicket was another one of these stupid runouts this season. They just seem to keep on coming. The ball going straight to Hardik Pandya. I don't know why Sanju Samson ran for that, and in the end a direct hit to dismiss him. And after this point, I mean, even from when Butler got out, it was going to be very difficult for them to chase this down. But after Sanju Samson was dismissed, you thought that it was even more so in the Gujarat Titans' hands this game. Shimron Hetmyer continued his good form, his great form, 29 of 17. I mean, like how Dinesh Karthik has been going in the tournament. Hetmyer's lowest score has been 29. He's provided these quick innings every time he's walked out of that. He's been involved in 2 recovery partnerships and then really hit boundaries at the end. And in this case, while he was there, you still thought that there was a glimmer of hope for the Rajasthan Royals. So once he was dismissed, again, Riyan Parag and Jimmy Neesham, they can bat, but I'm saying it was going to be a bit of a tall order for them to achieve at that point, you'd think. And yeah, I think that overall the Gujarat Titans wrapping this game up by 37 runs, a very good victory for them. And they'll feel quite happy with this win. And Rashid Khan and Lockie Ferguson, 3 for 47 and 8 overs between them. and those economical 8 overs probably increased the run rates quite a bit. They had to get more of the other bowlers, and the likes of Dayal getting 3 wickets, and Shami, even though he went for 1 for 39 in his 4, because the likes of Rashid Khan and Lockie Ferguson had gone so economically, it wasn't going to be something that would hurt the Titans as much. So a great win for the Gujarat Titans. Even better that Hardik Pandya, again, the reason why he was off the field is because of cramps by what he's saying. So even better in that case. And they've won 4 and lost 1. And I think that before the tournament, as I've said, I still think the batting lineup is a bit frail, but it's good to see the other players, like Abhinav Manhora, emerging to make life easier for the main two in Gill and Hardik Pandya. And let's see where they go from here. If the batting gets sorted for this team, which I still think is a hard job, but if it does get sorted for this team more or less, then they've got the bowling to defend scores. And I think that this so far, I think they've had a great start to this tournament, won 4 and lost 1. And if the batting just gets a bit more dependable in general, I think that this team can really do something in the tournament. And for Rajasthan Royals, I mean, they haven't, look, I know they've won 3 and lost 2, but they haven't exactly been too convincing after the first game in my view. They still conceded runs towards the end in their first game. They should have lost to Mumbai Indians, but they bowled really well in those last 6 overs. So you can say that was something which went well on their part. Then they lost against RCB because of poor death bowling. They should have lost the game against LSG, and now they've lost this one. So they still haven't been too convincing for me in this tournament. But I think that it's something which now you've seen where Kuldeep Sen has also gone for runs, and even the last game was a bit touch and go. So you haven't exactly got a cure for their death bowling woes, and that's just something they're going to have to live with. A very unsustainable model of bowling where you try to dismantle the opposition before the end of the 15th over. And you saw the likes of KKR against DC that in some cases when you're playing on a Brabant surface that's a belter of a pitch, then you effectively have not too much of a chance to win the game even before the ball is bowled. And that's something that the Royals will also have to think about with their bowling attack, but let's see how they go. And the next game being a KKR versus SRH, and that's at the Brabant Stadium, and I'm not sure how that will play. I mean, if it does play still to be a batting track, then I think that the best way to go about it would be for KKR, if they want to win, would be for them to bat first and really hit the Sunrisers out of the game, because I still think that the SRH lineup is quite top heavy, and if one of the top 4 or top 5 don't bat through to win in the game, they're not going to be able to expect that finish from the lower order, especially with Washington Sundar injured. And I think that in his case, they're going to have to replace him with an out-and-out spinner in Shreyas Gopal, who can bat a bit. But without Sundar on the side, you effectively don't have that hitter at the end unless you play Romario Shepherd instead of Marco Jansen, which on the bowling front you'd think would be quite a bit of a downgrade. And for KKR, their top order, especially the openers, haven't exactly come to the party so far in these games. And I still think if you get Shreyas Iyer out early, this lineup does seem a bit fragile. So that's something they're going to have to look at. And they're also going to have to probably hope that their bowlers still have some threats on this surface, which they didn't have in the previous game. Maybe in a night game, you've got the likes of Umesh Yadav and Pat Cummins to get some swing early on. But with their spinners, if they're also not in the game, then they also may still find it hard to control the SRH innings if their top 5 really go on a roll. So let's see how that game goes. But who do I think is going to win? I think I actually think SRH have a bit of a chance. Yes, if they're going to chase 200, it will be tough for them. But I think if they get things right with the ball, then I think that they'll probably be able to manage better with their bowling attack than KKR. Despite the fact that KKR have the more explosive batting lineup, I think that if the pitch doesn't have too much assistance for the bowlers, then SRH's bowling attack do seem the more adaptable one in this case. But let's see how that game goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share it with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?